Hi, Soul Tribe, and welcome to tonight's Galactic show. I have the gorgeous Sherri Divband. Hopefully, I'm saying your name right. How do I pronounce your last name?
That's right, Divband.
Oh, good. It's always hard with the Australian accent sometimes because we say some things a little bit different. Tomato, tomato. Um, so I'm so happy to have you on here. I was on your show a couple of weeks ago and just found out we had so much in common, and we've got some beautiful friends in common too. I'm sure Lisa and Johnny will probably be watching tonight, and a few others that we know. But yeah, thank you for joining me to talk about the Great Awakening.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I know our audience has been looking forward to having you on too. I know there's quite a few familiar faces that already know your work. So thank you guys for joining us. And if you have questions tonight for Sherri, please put them in all caps. We're going to be talking about New Earth Awakening. We're going to be talking about how important it is to educate these new, beautiful children as well, helping to, I guess, to activate and guide into this new utopia Earth. But I just want to start out by also reading your bio. So you're an intuitive transformational energy healer, the founder of the Aramis Creative Learning Center and the Aramis Collective, also the author to the Starseeds and the Great Awakening Intuitive Transformational Evolution, Divinely Guided children's books and animation series. And I will pop a link up so you guys don't miss out. And you're also focused on your healing practice, guiding and representing New Earth for the children to acclimate to this planet's energy field, guiding and coaching parents as well, which is really important on how to raise spirited children. And you also have a passion for teaching children how to explore, understand their spiritual gifts, facilitating future of education. So the Aramis Center, Learning Center, was launched in 2020. So you've been doing this for a while now. And as a holistic and alternative education platform where children come first. So all the current classes are virtual and serve 3 time zones: America, Europe, and Australia. So the Aramis team is working to raise money to open the first in-person center in Florida of this year. So I can't wait to hear more about this. So it's also the foundation for many Aramis centers to come, both nationally and internationally. And it'd be so nice to have one over here in Australia because we have a lot of beautiful crystals and indigos and rainbow children and blue flame kids too.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know that you also have a background from chatting to you on your show the other week around animal communication. Where did this all start for you? Was it the passion around the children and feeling that we need to, I guess, create this space and create this new education? Or was it animals that you were drawn to first?
Yeah. So I didn't start working with children until later in my life, and it wasn't actually even a thought of mine. So when I was a kid, I was an only child. I had teen parents. We moved around a lot. I dealt with a lot of traumas, a lot of bullying, never feeling like I belonged anywhere. Some, sexual, you know, assault growing up, and lots of different things that made
Yeah.
me feel very sheltered and quiet and reserved type of a child. So my mom got me a dog, a German Shepherd, when I was very young. And that German Shepherd, because I had no friends, not a lot of friends, because we moved around so much, and I didn't have any siblings, so that dog became my best friend. And that was the catalyst, I think, for the doorway for me to connect with the animal kingdom in general, because the unconditional love that I felt from my dog, I had never felt from anybody ever. I mean, my mother was lovely and loved me very much, but still, like, there was the love that I felt with this animal was like next level. It didn't have really any words to describe it. So I became very attached to animals. I was noticing all animals, and I wanted to work with animals. Like, I thought to myself, animals are so beautiful. They're so misunderstood. I wanted to thank them. I wanted to dedicate my life to working with animals. So I was going to go into veterinary medicine. And in high school, I started working at a vet hospital as a kennel technician, in the back, cleaning cages, walking dogs, things like that. And I just loved being there so much that I became friends with the veterinary technicians, like the nurses. And I loved that job. I said, I want to be a nurse. That's what I want to do. I don't want to be a vet. I want to be the nurse, because the nurses were the ones that seemed like they were the ones really interacting with the animals, where the vet would come and go and tell the nurses what to do, and we would do the treatments, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I went into veterinary medicine as a nurse for over 20 years. And my thought process was I was going to heal all of the animals. I was going to dedicate all of my love and all of my energy to the animals. The joke is, though, that when I was working in the animal hospitals, trying to hide from people because I didn't trust people, I didn't like people, didn't feel comfortable around people. You have to be around a lot of the owners of the animals and deal with a lot of really aggressive personalities. And I hated it. So I ended up going into the ICU because I could hide in the back. And a lot of times the pet owners weren't allowed in the ICU, just like in a real ICU. So I would just be there for 12-hour shifts in the back, taking care of the patients that I had. They were in critical condition, but I felt very connected to caring for them. And I didn't have a lot of traffic coming through. So that was the reason I started to learn Reiki. I wanted to learn energy healing for the animals because I wanted to find a better way to heal them other than just medicine, because they were in really dark shape. A lot of them were really, really rough shape. A lot of them didn't make it. So that's that. So the animals were my first love. They came first. Throughout that period, that grew into animal communication. I had a side business, did animal healing, animal communication. And the thing about it is that when I was going to people's homes and they were asking me to communicate with their animal and help heal their dog or cat from this health ailment or this behavioral issue or this, whatever it was, almost every single time I had to go back to the owner of the animal and say, well, they're telling me that they're mirroring your illness, your behavioral issues, your traumas. They're trying to heal you. And that was really hard for me as a young woman to talk to people like that confidently and basically put the arrow back to them and say, you need this healing, because I was not very confident in myself in that way, nor did I feel comfortable talking to people like that. So that was a real challenge for me. But I think the animals guided me to work with humans, because that's what I was really meant to do, was to work with people. In that they are the reason that I started to work with people, because the animals told me my owners need the healing. So it was kind of an interesting way to get me to heal my inner child and my traumas, to trust people. And the way that I really authentically did that is I was a young mom. So at 23 years old, I had my first son, and that was my first awakening. And I think I needed that because the animals were my crutch. They were the only ones I trusted, the only ones I loved, and the only ones I let in. Very minimal people that I let in. And my son opened my heart up in a way that was absolutely magnificent. And I never expected. And I felt that love with him that I felt with the animals. I was like, whoa, what is happening? And that made me start to look at the world differently. And I started to look at people differently. And I started to think, well, if they had traumas like me, maybe they're mean, maybe they're like that because of their own traumas. And then I started to appreciate people more, and I started to give them a break and stop judging them and stop assuming that they were going to hurt me. And it was a life lesson for me. I started to look at the world so differently, and each one of my children, because I have 3, opened me up more and encouraged me to love more and just open up more about more of me that I think had closed off, and that inner child in me healed. So then eventually I started working with children. But I'll stop there in case you have any questions, and then I can get to the next part, because that was a lot.
So many. And it's interesting. We've got quite a few parallels, like with myself having 3 kids, having worked in animal communication. And just when you were talking about being in the back in the ICU, I just felt your heart just expand. And I was just thinking, what a beautiful, safe space for those animals going through such hard times and such transition. Because we know that, when your heart's open and you're also connected to that divine Reiki field too, you would have just been flooding energy into that place. So I'm sure those animals would have just been so grateful to be in that space with you. So in regards to, I guess, shifting towards your school, so what's happening with the setup for this year? I saw in your bio as well, it said for the first center to open in 2025. How are things moving along with that? I know we're in the first half of the year.
Yeah, I know. It's already February. It's crazy how fast time goes. So my family and I moved to Florida almost 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, to create the first in-person center, because like you said, we've been doing the online center. I don't like using the word school. So it's this online platform, virtual, since the pandemic period, because I wanted to open up a center back then, but obviously the timing was off and people were afraid to go out and, you know, all of that. So I ended up doing it online. I said, you know what, let me just offer these classes for children online. And so we've been doing that for quite some time. We had such a beautiful following in Australia for a really long time, even till this day. We have, that's why we offer classes in Australia. And I have Australian mentors that are so dedicated to working with children that work with Aramis. So we are here in Florida to open the first in-person center. So we are looking to get land out here this year, and we will hope to open the first center here in Florida first. And then in the coming years, we'll open more throughout the country, and then we will go international. And Australia, it will be one of the first international locations because we have such a loyal following there and people really want that. And so it will be one of our first. I don't know where in Australia yet, but it's somewhere out there. So I have to come visit you so you can show me around.
I would love that. And there's so many beautiful places to pick. And I'm sure there'll be so many states in our country that have their hand up, you know, vying for the first school. And you know, there are little pockets and communities that are quite open and are really craving this kind of information. And there's just some amazing, beautiful kids. Having just done a show on the telepathy tapes recently with my good friend Phil Rice as well, you know, we've been talking a lot about these kids that have those, I guess, extra needs, but are telepathic. Have you come across kids that are also using telepathy, whether they're sort of more in the spectrum or other kids that are just gifted?
Yes, absolutely. And that's kind of my introduction to working. When I started working with children, it was somewhat accidental. I didn't put on my website that I was doing energy healing for children. That's not how it happened. I did hypnobirthing for several years because I wanted to help women have natural childbirth and work through those traumas, because I had 3 what I feel were traumatic births for me. It's a very personal experience for everybody, but I did not have good experiences. And that affects the mother, affects the family unit, and affects the child greatly when they come into trauma. So I did that for several years. And with that, I became friends with a lot of women and a lot of parents. And they wanted to see me for healings after pregnancy and delivery. And then they would bring their children to me because they were colicky or etc. Next thing you know, I was attracting a lot of children that were on the spectrum. I don't use labels, and I'm an advocate of going away from labels to explain actually what's going on, and which is a lot of what I do now. So I started to, but see, my children weren't quote unquote on the spectrum. So it wasn't like I was familiar with that. But I started to attract a lot of moms that had children that were recently diagnosed with all sorts of things: ADHD, dyslexia, autism, Asperger's, all sorts of things, nonverbal. So I was attracting a lot of nonverbal children, and the parents wanted me to communicate just like I did with animal communication. They came to me and they said, what does my son or daughter want to say? How can I cure them? How can I make their life better? Was the intention. Well, what I discovered, because I did not know at the time, well, let me find out. I'm going to communicate with the higher self of the child. I was blown away over years of communicating with these children that just kept coming into my office or virtually. They were telling me the most magnificent things. They were telling me I am nonverbal for a reason, because I am unique. I'm from a high frequency. I haven't had a lot of lives in the 3D. We are teaching humanity how to communicate energetically through the heart, through telepathy. You guys used to do this at one point. You lost it. We're reminding you how to do it. They also told me they don't speak a lot of the times because they don't want to use our word spells, because they know that our words have spells and they can summon dark entities and bad energy. And they are familiar with that. So they are trying to break us of our language and how we use it and how we communicate. And so I was learning so much in these sessions, and I was blown away. I started taking notes and recording all of this information. And so they were like, I will speak one day when I'm ready, but right now I choose not to. And a lot of them were just observing, saying, I'm waiting because I've never spoke before in this way. So I'm observing my environment. And that's why a lot of them at 4 or 5 years old just start speaking in full sentences, because they've been listening the whole time in preparation. And so they're so highly intelligent, and, they're hyperactive because they have a high frequency and a channel going through their body that makes them more multidimensional. They're oscillating way differently than we do. So we're not meant to sit still in classrooms all day under fluorescent lighting and memorize and in this indoctrination system that we're in. So these children come in very dynamic, very diverse. They're trying to encourage us to stop that and to let kids be outside and be in nature schools, follow their passions. Basically, what I'm creating, I'm following what they have asked me to do. So the children kind of came to me, and so the children I work with, to answer your question very simply, they're all so unique. They're all very gifted. A lot of them remember their past lives. A lot of them are falsely labeled. A lot of them remember their journey, why they're here. And they're here to awaken their parents and to awaken humanity. And they're looking for ambassadors and emissaries like myself to speak on their behalf, to help people understand them better.
Oh, there's just so much that resonates with what you're saying. And I'd had some nonverbal kids that I'd communicated with. And it blows my mind how they can empathically, it was emotional work, working with these children. So yeah, I just find it so amazing how, different things are happening on opposite sides of the world.
Right?
And this is just this beautiful wave and spontaneous shift that I guess is planned before we came to Earth. But I just love the way that it magically is unfolding, because we're sort of, I guess, spread out like little light workers in different corners of the world. And there's a few other people I know that have had these beautiful communications too. So it's so encouraging that we really are unfolding towards the world becoming a better place. With the topic of our show too, the Great Awakening, how, I guess, after chatting with some of these beautiful souls, which the way you describe them having such a high frequency, that's the way I've always seen it too. It's like so much for the little nervous system and the body electric to kind of hold such a giant frequency and vibration.
Yes.
And some of these kids not even being aware that they have a body. It's like their consciousness is so big that it's hard to, I guess, operate in the physical. What have some of these kids shared with you, or children, around where we're going?
Yeah, and it's a great question. And that's the reason why I've written all of these books. And that's the reason I have the Divinely Guided Children's book series as well, because I'm trying to teach and encourage children to be open to these spiritual topics and metaphysical topics, because they have historically been tabooed. But they're relevant now more than ever, and these children are craving the work of our ancestors and to activate this dormant energy in our DNA, and so they are part of a great shift. So actually, one of my greatest teachers is my daughter. So my third child, Aramis, she's now 10. She came to me a year or more before I got pregnant, and she told me who she was, and she said she would be coming into my life as my daughter, and that we would have an important journey together, and she needed my help. And throughout the pregnancy and even before conception, I channeled her all the time, and I have journals from her teachings. And she taught me about New Earth children. And she told me that I would be kind of like continuing Dolores Cannon's work with the fourth wave of volunteers. And I would be learning about the different types of children. So she's the one that taught me about rainbow children, about star children, about indigo, about crystal children, about divine children. And I wrote all of these in my books, and the different characteristics and why they're labeled why are they falsely labeled? Why are they here? What are they here to contribute? And basically what she was telling me is that there are children or souls from all over the galaxies, all over from different universes, indigenous ancestors of this planet, all over, that are of a high density of consciousness, that are already ascended beings, that have volunteered to come into this world, into the ascension timeline, in order to advance and help the humanity evolve, help us evolve. And a paradigm has to collapse in order for us to grow and something new to be birthed. So they're here to help us do that. And they have different characteristics based on why they're here, that will kind of cater to their purpose. So like if they're crystal children, they're the most sweet, kind, affectionate, humble, beautiful souls you've ever met. They don't like conflict. They're friends with everybody. They've never been in trouble, and they are everywhere. And a lot of them are teens and 20s right now, but they're still younger. And they're very connected and grounded, and they're even keeled, and they are beautiful. And they remind us how to love and to open our hearts, like my son. So my oldest son who opened my heart, he's a crystal, and he did that for me, and they're here to do that for humanity. But then they have others, like really challenging ones, like the rainbow group, that are extremely high spirited, stubborn. They're the way showers. They're the ones that'll bulldoze through all the paradigms, knock them down, tell us we're wrong, and they'll be the innovators and the ones that help us rebuild. So they can be very challenging. They can be misunderstood, like they're bad. They don't listen. They're headstrong, but they have to be that way because they're trying to get our attention and they're trying to teach us. And then there are everything in between. So the children of today, the children of now, are very enlightened and so much more advanced than even my generation and the generations that came before me, but we had to set the stage. So this is a generational commitment. So 4 generations ago, our great grandparents came in to set the stage, and then the next generation came to set it and to shift the frequency even more, and so on until we are where we are now. And now they come in a much, because every generation the frequency shifts and the bodies are able to hold more light. So the bodies have been going into this crystalline energy, not just right now. This has been happening for 3-4 generations, but a little bit at a time, our DNA is activating and changing. It's only until now that we can see a huge change, which is why a lot of children have health issues, which is why a lot of them have seizures, autoimmune issues, all sorts of crazy issues, because their bodies are like this. They're having trouble integrating the high frequency, because this is the highest frequency our bodies have seen in forever. And it's a 3D dense body trying to acclimate to a very high frequency that it's never seen before. And it's a challenge. It's a struggle for some. So that's another thing that we're seeing.
Yeah, definitely. And I've noticed with some of the kids I've worked with too, they definitely need nutritional support, gut health, a lot of brain balancing, kinesiology, just to sort of help keep them, integrating their beautiful light. And they have the biggest light bodies. And I want to make sure to share this just so people can, if you want to find out more on the different topics, especially to do with the children. So Sherri has these beautiful books here that you'll find on Amazon. You can go on over to her author page. I dropped the link in the chat before, so you'll be able to copy and paste that. And also, just make sure to subscribe to her channel so that you don't miss a lot of the interesting topics and the guests that she has on. Here's the one that we did about 9 days ago now, talking about consciousness shifts. That was such a fun chat, and I can't wait till we do another one. It'll be so much fun. And you also want to make sure to go check out, which we dropped in the chat too, your website, which has more about you working with children, the sessions. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear a chicken really loud in the background. I think she's laying an egg. Also want to remind you guys that us girls, so Sophie and myself, have sessions available, and you can use the discount code Jupiter to save 10%. And also you can use Valentine to save up until Valentine's Day for Sophie's love reading. And also, it's lovely when we see the love over here on Mason Jupiter channel. So if you guys can please hit that thumbs up, and also go over and follow Sherri on her channel at the same time while you're doing that. So let me just bring up my little notes that I've got. So how does the Galactic or the Starseed side integrate with this?
Well, a lot of the star seeds that we are seeing on planet right now are more galactic than we've ever seen before. So we're seeing less 3D earthbound souls, and we are seeing so much more of our galactic ancestry. So a lot of these children are coming in with this hybridized DNA, whether it's the spiritual DNA, so it's kind of on an astral level, but also it's integrating with the physical DNA, which is altering our DNA. And so we have a lot of Andromedans, we have a lot of Pleiadians, we have a lot of the Lyrans, we have Arcturians, a lot of Syrians. They're coming from many different places. and they're connecting to their ancestry here of those other Lyrans that have been here, or their other Andromedans that have been here. So there's a lot of this like melting pot of galactic frequency, which means that we also have a lot of guidance from our galactic counterparts, and our star families are very present right now, more than they've ever been before, because they want to help. They are invested. You know, people ask, why do they care so much? They care because they have family here. They have souls just like we have in that are connected to this matrix, and they want the best for them. And so they are invested in all of this. They care about our ascension, because it affects the entire universe. At least this one that we're in, not necessarily other universes, but it does affect this one. So we're kind of centrally located. So we have a lot of galactic energy right now, I think more than ever before. And children, that's the beautiful thing, are the children are aware of it. So they'll tell me they see their Andromedan mother, they see their Arcturian guide, they see these beings, they draw them, they go on ships and they remember it. And of course, if you're in a family that's not open to it, they'll think you're crazy. I had a session the other day with a woman who their family took her to a mental hospital because she was telling them that she was having visitations by her galactic family, and they tried to admit her to a mental facility. So, I mean, it's, you know, it can be a really rough road if you're not in the environment where people are open to that, but it's happening whether people believe it or not.
That's so true. She's still laying. I might go check on her in 1 second. I'll ask you a question. I'll pop it on silent and go and check. It must be a big egg. Poor baby. We've got 3 new ones, and so they're a little bit louder than the smaller ones. So in regards to like the starseed side of things, it is one of those things that I was lucky at around 4 or 5 years old. You know, my team was very careful about like who I was able to talk to about this side of things, and just, you know, preconditioning to me that not everyone is open to this information. And it is harder for those kids that are reaching out and just speaking their truth in their heart, and, you know, talking about their contact, because to them it is normal. And some of these kids also meeting up at nighttime, or I remember my oldest daughter talking about fairy school, and she'd talk about her and some of the other kids at nighttime. They would meet up in this, I guess you would call it like the astral or interdimensional space, and they would do healing or they would teach. So some of these kids are really, really advanced beings. And I'm sorry if I say the word kids. I know that there's some negative connotations. Some people pointed that out. It's just in Australia, it's so conditioned here. So I'm trying to switch it to say children. But yeah, did you also have a galactic heritage that you knew and understood with yourself, or did this unfold more with working with the children, and then you found out more about yourself that way?
That's exactly right. I didn't before. I was feeling very lost. I think when I was a child and I went through traumas, I shut a lot of it down. But I was always spiritual. I knew I was always different. But the thing is, I was always afraid. So I had more dark experiences than light experiences, except when I was with the animals. So I remember as a young girl, wondering why other children didn't see the what I saw, what I called witches in the woods and near me, taunting me. I'm like, I was thinking, why doesn't anyone else see that? So I had a lot of negative experiences. But I always remained spiritual. And I think at one point I just turned all of it off. So it wasn't until I had my son, Jordan, my first son, where I started to really open myself up and explore. And then I became very connected with the angelic realm first. And that's where I felt the most safe. Then it was the fairy realm. And then I didn't connect galactically until much later. So I've only discovered my galactic connection about 10 years ago. And I'm 43 years old. So, I mean, that's a good part of my life that went by, 30 years or so before I was really open to that. Because the thing about it is, if you don't have a family that supports it, or it's not talked about regularly around you, you don't believe it, you suppress it, or you just don't know, and you're not comfortable asking. So it wasn't a conversation that was being had in my house, and we weren't learning about it in school. No one else was talking about it. So you just kind of keep those things to yourself. And I think that's what happens with a lot of children. But not now. children are asking, they're making their parents uncomfortable. Their parents see me on an interview and they're like, oh my gosh, this is the only woman that can understand my child. Then they contact me in a panic, please help me. And that's happened countless times over the last probably 5 or 6 years. But now I'm seeing less of that and more of, okay, I believe them, I understand. How can I help them know more? Like now there's a thirst for more information on the parent side, which is a beautiful progression.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I remember when I was younger, I think because I'm a year older, I'm 44, and it's so interesting. There's 3 kids too.
Yeah.
Um, and starting young. But yeah, I remember when the Indigo film came out, and I remember going to the premiere with my mom. I'm not sure if my aunt came too. And I remember watching with her, and it's like she finally understood what it was like, being sensitive and being sort of more able to be intuitive and things. And I remember there was a Mary Broadwell documentary, and she does hypnotic regressions on starseeds. She works a lot with kids
Yes.
and with people that have gone through abduction experiences. And there was a documentary called My Mom Speaks to Aliens. And I remember sitting down watching that with my parents and just saying, this is kind of what it's like. So I'm so grateful that we have beautiful souls out there like you that, are making these programs available, and YouTube for children to be able to share with their parents what it's like, or for them to have an adult to represent that bridge between worlds. It's so important, the work that you're doing. Can you maybe speak a little bit more on what you were talking about, like with the fairies and the forest? I know you and I talked about fairies on the episode we did together on your channel. So you guys want to hear more about that too? Well, there's definitely more content out there around that. But yeah, can you maybe give us a couple of tips on how these children, how can we teach them to protect themselves from some of these astral and negative influences that tend to come in around the witching hour, especially?
Yeah. This is something that I have been working with parents for the last half decade, if not more, because the thing is, before that, my daughter was severely attacked psychically. It was next level, and I wasn't prepared to handle that. My 2 sons before had the normal night terrors here and there, and my son, my oldest, said he saw dark angels and asked me about it because he saw them flying around, and he said, "Why are they black? Why are they scary?" So, like, like what I would think is kind of like normal things. But my daughter was terrified of the dark, would scream at night. I had to sleep with her. I slept in her room for 2.5 years. I didn't sleep with my husband. I had to sleep with her. She would hold me all night. She was scared, terrified. She would see things. She would hear things constantly, all the time. She was scared, and they would taunt her and they would mess with her. So I was not prepared for that. I was doing everything I could think of to help her, some to no end. Sometimes it just got worse, and I would hire like people I knew, might not really hire, but my mentors. I would ask them for help, and they would do clearings. And sometimes it would work, sometimes it didn't. But I think it was just something we needed to experience, because unbeknownst to me, later on, I was going to have all of these clients that were children that were suffering like my daughter did. And at that point, I knew better ways to help them that I didn't know back then, right? So everything happens for a reason, I suppose. So one of my favorite things to do is call on the earth elementals and the animal kingdom, of course, because that's what I'm connected to most. So one of the things that works the most, and children love it and they resonate with it, is to have them call on the animal kingdom, especially at night before they go to bed. So they call on their animal guide or their animal protector, and they can, I always tell parents, get them the stuffed animal of the animal that they choose so they can hold it as well. So let's say that they feel connected to lions, and that's their protector, their guardian. Then when they go to sleep at night, they call on the soul of the spirit of the lion to protect them in the dream space, which we know as the astral realm, to keep them protected and safe. And in the physical sense, they are also in their room protecting and guarding their body. But then they also have a lion to hold so that they feel a connection. Or if it's a whale or a wolf or whatever it is that they connect with. And it can also change. They could have 4 or 5 animals, and every night they choose the one that they want to protect them that night. And that helps them learn to do it themselves. Also, parents can do it for them on behalf of them. I call upon the animal kingdom to protect Aramis tonight while she's sleeping in the physical realm and the astral realm. to fly with her, to be with her while her soul is journeying, and to make sure that she's fully guarded and protected, and that her room is protected and guarded by these animals that you choose, and you feel them guarding their space, and they do, and it works. And I have coached so many families on that their children couldn't sleep for years, and we did that exercise, and they would call and say they haven't slept through the night in years, and it worked. So that is one of my favorite things to do, is to call on the animal kingdom, and it's something that kids love to do. You can also call on the fairy realm.
And that's such a great tip. And that's something I think that I can see in the audience, people talking about psychic attack and things like that. And I was one of those resistant kids that it was, fighting sleep. It must have been exhausting as a parent, because I was still going to my parents' room even up until about age 17. And I think, when you are having ET contact, that it doesn't matter, even if you're sleeping right in the center of your parents, that you can still be taken out into other realms, or still have beings come and visit you. So we really need to teach children these skills, or call upon things. I remember making like little fairy sprays and things like that when my children were young, and putting protective oils and things, and frankincense, for you guys, if you have a little diffuser, one of those ultrasonic diffusers, having something like that in your child's bedroom, especially with what Sherri was talking about, it's such a lovely way to go off to sleep. And the children sleep so much deeper too, doing these protections and invoking their beautiful guides to come in for the astral.
Yes.
Switching it up a little bit and talking about timelines, is there something that you see in regards to like future timeline that we might be anchoring?
Absolutely. That's one of the things I was so excited to write about in not my last book, but the book before, Starseeds and the Great Awakening. The third part of that book was kind of the projections for the future. And not because I'm trying to be like a Sylvia Brown, or I'm not a prophet. I'm not trying to predict, right? That's not something that I do. But because I have sessions every day, I have thousands of clients, and you do as well. I take notes from every session that I do. Every soul reading has notes, and they're all cataloged and they're all stored. And I use that information to write my books, because I think that I've learned that it's helpful for other people to hear that others are going through similar things, or if a lot of people are experiencing the same lessons and I'm helping them figure out how to navigate. If I write it in a book, then it can help so many more people, even if they don't have a session with me. So I put in the book a lot of the things that I saw coming in the future because of the sessions I was doing. We always look in the future a little bit. What do I see? What's your soul's purpose? Why are you here? And what's coming? Now, when I do that for thousands of people, you're going to start to see themes in the future, right? You can't help it. So we are entering this Aquarian age, the Grand Rising, the Great Awakening, the Golden Age, whatever you want to call it. There's so many ways you can refer to it, but really simply what's happening is an ascension is occurring, where we are evolving as a species. What does that mean? Not only are we physically evolving because we are activating the perceived dormant DNA, really it's our consciousness is activating. The density of consciousness collectively is shifting. And as the density of consciousness shifts, our perception of our reality shifts completely, and we are able to anchor ourselves into a higher dimension. We are no longer going to be anchored into this 3D, held here through what I call 3D interference, and what I break down in that book of all the things that are designed in this reality to hold us into that 3D, to prevent us from activating that DNA and the consciousness. So the children are here helping us. So we are moving to a new era of awakening, which is why I keep using that word, that phrase a lot in my channel, because humanity and life as we see it is shifting, and it will never be the same. So the paradigms of the 3D are collapsing. Everyone is seeing it. It's making people uncomfortable because the uncertainty of the unknown is scary. Sometimes we're so used to being in the loop of 3D that the thought of something else is more scary because it's intimidating, because we don't know what it looks like. But as those things break down, we are opening new pathways energetically, physically, emotionally, mentally, to co-create something so much better. So the educational platform is shifting, which is something I'm working on. The medical field is shifting, and so many beautiful souls are activating and becoming the healers, and then people are open to alternative methods of healing, and less and less people are going into the medical industry or field and buying into that. And so that's changing. And then the political arena, there's not a lot of evidence of it right now, but the way I see it in the future is more councils and leadership of much more maturity. But right now, there has to be a lot of immaturity to break down the darkness. But once that's cleared, we're moving into a completely new reality, one that I have been told many times we can't even fully imagine it because it's never existed here. So it's hard to really explain it because it wouldn't even make sense. So many beautiful things are coming, but it comes with a lot of uncertainty, and it takes diligence and what I refer to as the courage to change, that's my newest book. It takes the courage to change for all of us, to step into something new, to love unconditionally each other and ourselves, to create the world that we want to see, which is what we're doing right now.
And I can just see this book on the corner. So it's on the right-hand side.
That's the newest one, yeah.
Yeah. And you can see that there's beautiful reviews in there too. If you guys want to go in individually, have a read of some of the reviews, there's a lot on there. And yeah, the future just sounds really bright. It's definitely a lot different compared to what's been, I guess, broadcast or programmed into movies and a lot of the fear-based propaganda side of things. And, there's a reason that these kids are coming in. And I think we're seeing it. Some of these kids have different brain waves, different capabilities. We're seeing things like telekinesis, and we're seeing things where these kids can read with their hands or their feet. It's incredible. We're shifting into such a superhuman dynamic form, or a higher expression of what we're really supposed to be. Do you think that this will also shift for the adults too? Do you think that we'll also come into deeper states of, I guess, our potential?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, we can't just have a whole new generation of children activated and then we not be part of that, right? So yeah, I'm excited personally out of my clientele, and I'd love to hear about your experience. But I've been working with people for almost over 20 years, and overlapping with people now for almost an additional 15 years. And I can honestly say, from the beginning of me working with people to the middle to where we are now, so much more of the collective is awakening and healing and shifting in such a profound way that I am so excited, because I'm seeing it in real time through my eyes, through my clients. And I'm like, I'm so proud of you guys. I'm proud of myself. I've grown too. So it's not like I'm perfect. I grow every day, just like everyone else. We're all work in progress. We're never going to be perfect. That doesn't exist. But I just happen to be in a space where I have done so much that I can help others. But then so many people help me in ways that I am not healed yet. So it's so beautiful how we work together. But yeah, the adults are activating. The children are helping us activate. But we are taking responsibility for our role in this ascension. Whether you have children or not, it's not like you have to have children to be an ascended being. Not at all. There are so many out there that chose a different path, and you're activating in your own way. But people are doing grid work. They're opening portals. They are healing their inner child. They're healing the wounds. They're doing the work, and they are activating. And I'm seeing more activations in 2024 into 2025 than I've ever seen before. I'm talking spontaneous. People are waking up and they're like, I feel completely different. This is insane. And getting downloads and all of this. I mean, it's really exciting time right now.
It's making my cheeks hurt from smiling, just in like resonance, because I'm seeing the same thing with clients too, and seeing things in their auras that over the last 2 years that I've never seen before. And and there's a new form of consciousness that's associated with some of these new colors, new energy. It's just such an exciting time to be alive. So I know our beautiful soul tribe has such a different view in that they're not just sort of following, I guess, the negative dark agenda programming things. We're in such a beautiful, supportive community. I can see everyone resonating with the message that you're saying. I'm just so grateful to have such a beautiful soul on today. Is there anything that you want to mention? I know you've also got your retreat coming up in February, and you've also got some conferences in May and July, I think it was.
Yes, this is a really busy year for me. So a lot of things are going. I'm writing my next book is called Healing the Human and Animal Bond. So that's going to come out sometime this year. So I'm really excited because that's a passion project for me to kind of going full circle and thanking the animals for everything they've done for me. And that book is really special to me. So that's something I'm working on. I have a retreat coming up the end of this month with two amazing souls, two girls, friends of mine, Laura Bantine and Abby Lynn, and we're going to do an immersive 3-day retreat in Jupiter, Florida, for healing and activating and so many amazing things. So if anyone's in that area, we still have a few spaces left. So you can definitely join us for that. I have two conferences coming up, one in May with Rebels of Disclosure. It'll be my 3rd year speaking at that conference. If you can't make it in person in Grafton, Illinois, they do have a live stream option. So many people choose that because they have people watching from all over the world. Oh, yeah, there you go. All over the world. Thank you for bringing that up. So they have a live stream pass. But Rebels of Disclosure has a beautiful lineup of speakers. I'm so honored to be speaking among this panel. And then the last one I'm doing this year is in July in St. Pete, Florida, full disclosure conference, all sorts of topics. I'll be speaking about children there, of course, and animals and things like that. And then I'm really going to switch gears and I'm going to dedicate my time to working only with children. So I made the decision to stop doing soul readings towards the end of August of this year. I usually have a 4 or 5 month waiting list. So I'm trying to give people plenty of time and notice that I won't be doing it anymore. And I will be just focusing 100% working with children and getting this center open up in Florida this year. That is my primary focus and goal. So this is going to be a crazy busy year. I think that this is some really positive thing I'd love to say really quickly to your audience. I did a video on this a couple of weeks ago, maybe. It's not really a predictions for 2025. I'm not really about that, but it's like, what's the tone of this new era we're walking into? And I feel that 2025, there's a lot of movement. And this is the year I feel people are finally moving forward in the projects that have been stalled for years. I see a lot of movement, a lot of changes, projects moving off the ground, humanitarian efforts paying off and activating, people finding their soul tribe, people moving more than I've ever seen before, moving to different states, different cities, finally being released into like their true calling and where they're supposed to be. So much activation is happening this year. But I also have seen a lot that are still holding the space. So if you're not one of those people that your project doesn't move forward this year, or you're not called to move, perhaps you are still one of those grid workers that's holding space and it's not time yet. So it's not for everybody. So although this year is going to be absolutely beautiful and so many amazing things are occurring, I still want people to use discernment and be really diligent in their self-awareness, because there are going to be a lot of people that are going to continue to resist what's occurring because they don't understand it and they're not ready, and they're fiery, they're upset, they're causing conflict, they don't feel settled in who they are. Therefore, the foundation of the reality seems to be falling from beneath them, and they are scared. And it's hard for us we need to have compassion, but it's really hard for people not to get mad and judge those people. But so it's not this beautiful, perfect year. There's going to be lots of ups and downs, but if you're in a higher frequency and your perception is different, you will cruise through this year with so much blessing, so much abundance, so much movement. But if you're anchored into the lower frequency, you're going to struggle. So that's something to think about. But the thing is, we are in control. It's all about your perception and what you're tuning into, what you're accepting, and what you're consenting to. So it'll be interesting to see, to say the least.
Yeah, I really resonate with the message that you shared, that we're in this year. And I'm seeing that with my clients that have put the work in, they've done the investment in self, they've really, understanding whether it's their traumas or, things like patterns that have done the work to break free from that. And they've done the work to step forward in confidence, to commit to their soul mission, their soul purpose. I'm seeing a lot of movement for them. And even on an astrology level, it's such a year for, I think it was more the fixed signs for them to kind of quantum jump forward to. So there's a lot of change, which is just That's exciting in itself. But I think beautiful message. We definitely need to stay in high frequency. Is there some things that you could perhaps recommend just to help keep us in alignment with this high frequency, whether it's like working with crystals or the grid work that you mentioned, or how do you see like food and meditation and things fit in?
I think it's all relative. I always tell people, the more you go within and work on yourself, the less you'll need the crystals, and all the other things are great to have. I have them, trust me. My house is full of crystals. I have all the tools. I have the sound bowls and all the fancy stuff. But really, we have to get into a place where we don't need any of that necessarily, and then it's just for fun. So going within, grounding, getting to know yourself, healing the inner child, and there's a lot of ways to do that. But I'm a big fan of breath work. It doesn't cost a penny. And every day people can get into the habit of it being part of their spiritual hygiene, just like brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, getting ready for the day. You do 2 minutes of mindful breathing where you say, I intentionally, mindfully, and consciously release any and all energy that's blocking me, holding me back, the limited beliefs, trapped emotions, anything and everything that's not serving my highest good at this time. I choose to release it now. And you take 4, 5, 6 nice big belly breaths. You hold it. You feel like it's coming from to the surface. Bring it into the lungs, and then have a nice long exhale. And you let it go and ask the beautiful universe to just transmute that for you. And after 1 or 2 minutes of that breath with that intention coupled with it, it is the most profound thing you can do. If people do this twice a day for 1 full week, I'm telling you, it will change your life. And it doesn't cost a penny. And it's you activating your innate ability to cleanse the aura and the energy field. But no one's ever taught us to do that. And we don't know how, most of us. And it's the easiest and the most profound thing we can do to shift our vibration up to kind of this like nice neutral level. Once you're at the neutral level, it's much easier to go into a higher frequency.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess when we're at that neutral level, we're able to be more consciously aware of when we dip down or things are bringing us into a lower frequency, and more conscious of how good we feel when we're vibrating or we're resonating, whether it's with people or, music or whatever it is that's pulling our frequency up. But yeah, breath work, it is one of those things. Like I think a lot of people look at it as, oh, it's too easy or too simple. Maybe I've got to say some mantras, do some mudras, do some clapping or bells or whatever.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, it is one of those things. It doesn't cost a penny. So,
and it really is that simple. It really is.
Yeah. And especially important also for, starseeds or those of us that don't really feel from here, to actually consciously connect within body. It is really life-changing once you start to really feel and occupy this vessel. Is there anything that you wanted to share with us around what are people reaching out for you more at the moment? Is it around like the school side of things, or the online classes? Where are you feeling that your attention and energy that people are sort of more demanding of at the moment?
I think that it's interesting because for years I was attracting so many children clients because the children were feeling lost and not supported. But recently, this last year and into this year, there are so many more adults awakening and feeling lost and needing guidance, and children seem to be doing really well for the most part, not all, but so I am feeling called and pulled to help adults. So I've been working a lot doing soul readings for adults, because in my soul readings, it's not really for fun in the sense that it's not a circus show. I'm not doing this I have better things to do with my time. It's let me help you see the macro. I'm a macro person. It's like, let me look at your life, your soul, look at your life from your soul's perspective, your origin. Where were you before this planet? What have you done as a soul? What's your knowledge base? What is your specialty? What calls to you? And then why did you even come to this planet in the first place? How long have you been here? What are the lessons you've learned? Why are you in this ascension timeline? What are you doing right now? What's your mission? What are your blocks? Who are the soul contracts that you have? Who's in your life to help you learn, to take you to the next level? All of these things. And my intention is I help people put puzzle pieces together so it empowers them because then they walk away and they say, oh my gosh, it makes so much more sense. I can look at my life now from a different perspective, and everything changes, and it puts them in a place of power, and they can exercise their sovereignty that way. So that's really what I feel like is my calling right now. The only thing is I don't have much more. I'm feeling like I'm pulled where I don't have much more time to do that, because I really need to go back to the children and the educational component and open up our center and focus my attention on that. So I will do my very best to do these soul readings until I can't anymore.
And it's such a foundational thing, I guess. Once the foundation or the school is, or the center is set up, I guess you'll be able to, circle back around and so, yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show tonight. It's just been so lovely to have you. And let me pop up just so that people can find you. So we have your YouTube. So much information, beautiful, amazing guests that are on. And remember to hit that subscribe button for Sherri as well as for Maison Jupiter. We appreciate the love. And if you want to read more, because these are value-packed, I guess, packets of information, as you said, from like the client sessions. And, we're talking thousands of sessions that's condensed into these volumes of information. Do you have one that, if people were looking to start, what would be the one that you would recommend first?
For the adult books, Starseeds and the Great Awakening and Courage to Change are kind of like a part 1 and part 2. So I strongly recommend starting, like, my older books are great. Divinely Guided is wonderful. Intuitive Transform, but they're the younger, more immature version of myself that only knew what I knew at the time. But the Starseeds book and the Courage to Change are the elevated, more mature version of myself that put so much into it. So I recommend starting with Starseeds, and then Courage to Change is about action. Now that you understand a lot of things from the first book, now here's how to heal. Here's my recommendations. I talk about breath work and meditations and nutrition and the body systems, and what left versus right means, and what is your body trying to tell you through body talk, and all of those things. So, and then the Divinely Guided children's books are great because there are 10 of them, and they're all colored, easy books for children to read. And it teaches them about so many beautiful topics. Chakras is the new one that we just released. It talks about the chakra systems. We've done energy healing, going into the forest, learning about earth elementals, animals, intuitive eating, all sorts of beautiful things. And I love the children's books so much. It's another passion of mine.
Oh, and I love those topics just for these kids or the children of the new earth. And the ones that I wish that I had for my children when they were growing up, we had a few on angels and, things of that sort of nature and meditations. And I just want to remind you guys that if you are wanting to come to an in-person event, Sherri has on her events page, that's the page that you want to check out. And you will see more about the school and the sessions. And also, we've got the sessions available. So if you did want to book a reading with me, it is to use the discount code Jupiter to save 10%. And is there a final message that you wanted to leave our gorgeous audience with tonight?
Gosh, I think we talked about so many things. I don't even know. I think just despite the storm that you feel around you, and despite the negative thought that comes through your mind, so many beautiful things are happening right now. And it's just shift your perspective as much as possible to neutral. And things will feel so much easier if you take the emotion out of everything. And there are reasons for everything that are happening right now, but sometimes it's hard to see it and recognize it when you are in that first person looking at it really close, the micro. So try to shift your perspective to the macro, look at everything from a different perspective, and things will make so much more sense. And then you will be able to be much more neutral about it. I'm telling you, it's life-changing.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. So many little pockets of information and wisdom that you've given us tonight. So we're super grateful. And I can see Julie's been watching at home as well. So she's just saying thank you so much. So, yeah. So thank you for coming on. And you guys in the chat, let us know if you want to see a part 2 as well. We will have a lot more topics to talk about in the future. But I should let you go because I know it's a later night over there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun, and I love your energy, and I'm so glad to have met you, and thank you for inviting me on to your channel. And you have the most lovely, kind, considerate audience. So thank you guys for such nice things, because sometimes you just never know when you go on channels. Sometimes people are not the kindest, but everybody here is so nice. So thank you, all of you, for watching and for your beautiful comments.
Thank you. Well, we all appreciate you. And yeah, it's just been such a blessing to get to know you, and can't wait to meet you in person one day too.
Yes.
If you're in Florida.
Yes.
All right. Have a great night, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everybody.